Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben and this is the Smoking Hot Confessions BBQ podcast. Hey family, I hope you're well wherever you are and you got that thin blue smoke rolling. This is episode 10 of season 7, and in season 7 I'm focusing on the barbecue scene in Australia. Yes, the dark smoky arts in the wide brown land of Oz. And so I'm kicking things off in this season by talking to the top 5 ABA and KCBS teams of 2019. And today's guest is Steve Allan from Smokin Steve's BBQ. Now, he is a really busy guy. Not only does he do all the different work things that he does that we'll find out about shortly, he's got his barbecue side of things happening as well, and he's got a 10-month-old baby in the house as well. So while we're recording this episode, he's actually sitting outside because the baby's a bit under the weather at the moment and is making a bit of noise. So we are going to have a bit of wind noise under the recording. I'll do my best in post to clean it up. But just to let you know, there's going to be a little bit of wind noise, but I think we'll cut him some slack. The man's got a 10-month-old baby in the house. I certainly remember what that's like. Smokin Steve Allan, he is a favourite on the barbecue circuit in Western Australia. I met him when I was over at Smokin in the Valley in November over in Perth, and he did a cracking job over there. You would have seen my photographs from the event. Steve was up there with his teammates collecting some trophies there by the end of the festival, and he was having a great old time. For our international listeners and our American listeners, Perth is literally as far away from the Gold Coast as you can possibly get in Australia. So to put it in perspective, Gold Coast to Perth is 4,367 kilometres. For the American listeners, LA to New York is 4,488. So we're talking about travelling from Gold Coast to Perth is similar to travelling LA to New York. Or for the European listeners, it's like trying to drive from Portugal, Spain to Moscow. So, it's quite the distance. And the big difference is, of course, with Australia, that there's nothing in the middle. It's just a huge red desert. And 98% of people will catch one of the only 6 flights a day across the country, because if you try and drive it, there's a good chance you're going to die. So, that's where we're heading to today. Thankfully for the internet, I'm able to connect with Steve over there in Perth. And he is currently number 1. For 2019, he was number 1 on the KCBS ladder for chicken and number 1 on the KCBS ladder overall for Western Australia, which is absolutely fantastic. So in this episode of the podcast, we're going to find out about his 2019 story. We're going to find out what he's got planned for 2020. And then we're going to dive into the West Australian barbecue scene. As I was explaining before, there's that giant red desert filling up the middle of Australia, and there does tend to be a bit of a divide between the East and the West. So on the East Coast, typically we've had ABA and we're starting to get SCA competitions, and we've snuck in a few KCBS. West Australia is almost exclusively KCBS, and they've also got things like all sorts of different trees, so they smoke on different types of woods. It's going to be a really interesting conversation to find out sort of what are some of the differences between the East and the West Coast, because Australia is that huge wide brown land with such a wide range of flora and fauna. So we're going to see what impact that has on the barbecue scene. We're also going to talk about what the introduction of KCBS has meant for the WA barbecue scene as a whole. We're going to get Steve's ideas on what are some WA barbecue teams that you need to be following on Instagram right now, and some WA barbecue businesses as well, because there are some cracking people doing some very interesting stuff over there. And then Steve's going to give us a bit of a lesson, some tips and techniques about the dirty bird. We're going to get into the chicken, as he is the number 1 team for 2019 for chicken. I figured he'd be the bloke to ask. So that's enough out of me. Let's get stuck into this podcast.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions BBQ podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Good afternoon, Steve, and welcome to the Confessional. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, mate. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, mate, anytime. How's that blueberry shisha?
It's good. They don't call me Smokin Steve's for nothing, I guess, but I'm considering this me time in the backyard, so it's crucial to enjoy it.
Multitasking, mate.
To the best of my ability.
Yeah. Modern life is all about multitasking.
That's it, mate.
So tell us about how you got into barbecue.
Oh man, a long time ago. I'm trying to think if it was what year it was. So if it's a blur, but I mean, what got me into barbecue was watching shows like Man vs. Foods. I was a big follower of Anthony Bourdain, no matter where he went. And there was an episode where he went to Austin, Texas, and he met the Aaron Franklin of Texas, and just got me hooked. And I thought, well, no one's doing that here in Perth, let alone, even Australia. At the time, I couldn't think of anyone who was doing something like that brisket that I could see on TV. So that was the point where I thought, okay, I got to do something here. Because I love to cook, even before doing barbecue. And in my personal life, a lot was going on at the time. My dad had passed, and we were big on watching those kind of shows. Had back surgery, so I needed something to do after that because I couldn't do much. I was just sitting around the house. So that's why I ended up getting, as my first smoker, a Bradley digital, the 6-rack Bradley. And that's where it first started for me. And then I would get my mates around, and they loved the ribs that I was smoking, and because no one had really had anything smoky before, and I wasn't really doing much. I was just smoking and wrapping some ribs for some poker nights, and then it just escalated from there to the point where one of my mates wanted me just to cater for his wedding, which I'd never done before. So I had to buy a second Bradley for that, and
of course.
Everyone loved it. just to feed enough people. I think it was about 80 people for my first rodeo.
Oh, wow.
And but it turned out well, and everyone was happy. And even before the wedding, after the surgery, it was 2 weeks out of surgery, and then I was told that there might be a competition in Perth, the very first one that Stephen Jenner was running, called Smokin' the City. And I mean, I could barely move out of bed, but I thought, this is cool. I've got my Bradley. Let's give it a crack. And I was told there was 3 proteins to cook. And for the very first comp, I'm sure you're aware now, that Stefan's told you that we rocked up on a Sunday morning at 5 a.m. and we had to cook 3 proteins. It was pork, ribs and brisket, and turn in at like 1 o'clock the same day. So it was like a real hot and fast kind of competition, which was nuts. So we had to bump in at like 5 a.m., start the smokers and cook, and then turn in the same day. It was stupid. There was only 6 teams, I think. So I ended up winning pork for that, which was cool. And I thought, okay, now I'm hooked. I've got my first little gold medal. It was back in those days. It was a little medallion, and it just blew me away. I'm like, this is great. So. And then he did the following year, and then it was 12 teams, and that was the first one that was overnight. And then from there, it grew. And then after that, my obsession grew, and I ended up flying over to Austin and cooked over there for a month at Micklethwaite Crafts Meats. And basically, I just emailed a whole bunch of barbecue restaurants over there, and I just said, look, I'm a guy over here just cooking, doing comps, want to learn. I'm going to work for free. I'll just use my rec leave over here, and just willing to learn and be a sponge. And I got about 3 or 4 replies, which was great, and everyone was really friendly. And but I chose Micklethwaite because they're traditional, real old school Texas, with your offsets, just nothing but wood, post oak. So yeah, that's where it led me to, and I just had a great time in Austin. People are great, the town's awesome, very hip, progressive young town. Had a great time, and with my knowledge, I came back and I thought, okay, it's time to buy myself a offset.
Wow! So tell me more about working at Micklethwaite.
So I was getting up at 5 a.m., lighting the fires. And I was just basically learning how long each protein was cooking, and just how they make it. And things that I learned the most was, funny enough, chicken, which I'd never smoked before. And I realised, well, it can take a lot of smoke and it sticks pretty well. And that surprised me the most, as well as sausages. Obviously, the jalapeno cheddar style Texas snags. They were also doing like the barbacoa, like the pulled beef and the beef cheeks, the goat. They were also doing goat over there. But the biggest thing I learned over in Ikuwait was one of the sides was the jalapeno cheese grits, which is basically just your standard polenta mixed with a lot of milk and cream and cheese and a bit of gorgonzola and garlic, and just stirring that, keeping it nice and slow. It was just absolutely delicious. I've never tasted anything like it. So I took that back with me and put it in my arsenal whenever I do events for my mates. I'll always cook that, just like we had Australia Day last week. So it's always on the menu for Australia Day now.
Yeah, cool. You're the first person who I've met who's actually been able to give me a decent explanation of what grits are. My wife's American, and so we've got a bunch of expat friends, and they all sort of shrug their shoulders and say, I don't know what it is. It just tastes good, so we eat it.
Yeah, I think there's other types of grain that you can use for grits, because I was in Nashville a couple of years ago as well, and their grits were a little different because it was for breakfast, and it was very plain. I didn't actually enjoy it, and they knew I wouldn't enjoy it, so they allowed me to choose another side dish with my bacon and eggs because it was like just a real plain grits. I don't know how to explain it, but it just had nothing to it. They must add, I think they were adding sweet things to it as well, like honey jams and things like that, and just stirring it up. But yeah, chose with the French toast instead.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so after Austin, it's a bit of wind coming. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So after Austin, I got back and I purchased a BSG offset 20-inch, and I think his name's Dan. He was building them out of Queensland, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
From memory. Yeah. So I think I own the only BSG offset in Perth. I don't think anyone else has one. So once that got delivered, I was hooked and started learning the craft on the offset, and then the following Smokin' the City came back and won ribs and reserve grand champion, I think, for that one. So yeah, that was in a nutshell the origin story of how I came to be Smokin' Steve's.
Yeah, and now you just get to run around and just collect all the different trophies and things.
I mean, yeah, I've had good years and bad years, and it's just you're always learning. You gotta just keep up with the other teams, because if you slack off and you keep doing what you're used to doing, other teams will catch up. So, but a big inclusion to the team in 2017 was my mate Reese, who we met through a mutual friend, and he has a Southern Ocean smoker, I think it's called. No, Southern, what's it called?
No, it is Southern Ocean, by Molly, yeah?
Yeah. No, sorry, not Southern Ocean. He's got something Creek, Silver Creek, I think. I can't remember.
Silver Creek, yeah.
Silver Creek. Mine was converted to on wheels by Southern Ocean by Jason, who does an amazing job with offsets over here. We caught up, and I invited him to join my team, because at the time, back in the day, it was just myself and my partner, my now wife. So I was just doing basically everything by myself, and my mum would always rock up. So we were kind of like a tight-knit family team, because my mum was and still is the queen of the parsley boxes. She comes in the morning on the Sunday and does the perfect parsley box. That's just her job. And she walks up she does the walk as well once we boxed up, and she walks them up and makes sure, the box is clean. And so she looks after all that and the admin. And so she's been my number one supporter and been with the team since day one. But when Reese came on, it was just a big help, because we do nothing but wood. So we're just old school to the T with only one smoker. And so we make life hard for ourselves, but we enjoy the challenge. So all pro teams out of the 20-inch BSG. And Reese does not sleep, which is great for me, because I get like 3-4 hours sleep to be sharp for Sunday, so I can slice and box. But I don't know how he does it, and don't know what I'd do without him. So I've got to thank him for that. But he smashes the monsters and the no-dos, I think, and it just keeps him going, just watching the wood. But yeah, so that's our team.
Yeah, very cool. And so you said that you had put the BSG onto a trailer, and you said that you cook everything at the in one smoker. So do you have you adapted your cooks to run all at the one temperature, or do you like heat it up and cool it down at certain times?
No, we're pretty much running at the same temp. Obviously, we'll put certain proteins on earlier, like the briskets and the Bostons. But when it gets to crunch on Sunday morning, we're just running it around 250, and we just have to really watch and make sure we're not lifting the lid too often, and we keep a tight schedule. And I mean, we've done enough now that it works, but it is challenging with one smoker. I'd like to know actually how many teams in the top 10 actually use one smoker and only 2 cooks. But so we're proud of that, you know.
Yeah. I do much the same when I compete. I've got a Radar Hill vertical, and I run it at 275, nice. And I've adapted all my different processes and cooking and all that sort of stuff so that everything gets cooked at 275.
Beautiful. That's the way to do it.
So, man, tell me about 2019. What did you do? Competitions you entered? How you fared? All that stuff.
Man, 2019 was a big year for me and the wife personally, because my son was born in April. So out of action for a couple of comps. We weren't part of Smokin the City, and there was one in Chidlow in May. So we basically had a lot of time. Like once Leo was born, I had a few weeks off work, and by June, Reese and I started practicing, and we did like a Christmas in July event for friends, so we could utilize the time to cook proteins and trial and error and taste rubs and sauces and different meats, and just practice basically. So we had a lot of time to rest, recoup, and it did wonders for us. So our first comp was at Chidlow. I think that was September. And so we got 3rd out of 17 with a first in chicken. And that was a great comp. And then it was basically one after the other. So we had 3 months with 3 comps. So then it was October was Bruin Q, which is run by Barbecue Events Australia. Jason and Ian do an awesome job, and that was an amazing event. So we came 4th out of 30 teams. We got 2 call-ups, 3rd brisket, 3rd chicken, and then November Smokin in the Valley, and you were a part of, and we got 2nd. We got RGC by 1 bloody point, but we were very happy with what we produced. But congrats to King Discu for making it over from the east, and he did an amazing job. He showed us how he rolls, him and his wife, and we got RGC with the first chicken. And I think we got another call up too. But so we had an amazing year. We're very consistent. The only thing that let us down, funny enough, was our ribs. When traditionally back in the day we were doing really well with our ribs, but I guess it's just what you're concentrating on at the time will change and change the outcome. So I think we kind of let our ribs slip when we were focusing more on brisket and chicken. So it's a matter of just keeping on top of every protein, because if you're not consistent on all 4, you can slip away down the ladder. So that's what we've been doing over the summer. It's just been working on our ribs now, and getting ready for a big 2020.
Yeah. So what do you have lined up for 2020?
Well, in fact, next week is a big one. So we've got the Governor's Cup that Stefan Jenner's running. So he's chased up the top 10 teams, and if they're not available, he'll go to the next one down the line within KCBS. So that's happening next week at the Governor's House, right in the heart of the city, which would be a beautiful location. And that's a winner-take-all prize of $5,000. So you want to make sure you win it, or else it's going to be costly and it's going to annoy you. And that's happened to me in the past, actually. We had one in Perth. It was the top teams of Perth, and I think it was about 13 teams. And Guerrilla Warfare took it out by a smidge, and we both had about the same 3 or 4 call-ups. And it was down to the wire, so they took it out. And congrats to them. But that was annoying coming second in the winner-take-all comp, because you just walk away with nothing. But you get a few trophies, but, it does help when you get some cash to pay everything off.
Oh, so there's not even any prizes for like 2nd or 3rd?
No, it was nothing. It was just an
wow.
overall GC prize. Yeah. So that's what this one is next week, I believe. It's $5,000 for first and nothing else for second. And the proteins, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, you've got to be on your A game.
So there's not even any prize money for the individual proteins. It's literally you get GC or you get nothing.
Well, if it's the way it was run last time, yeah, that's the way it'll be. It's I'm pretty sure. So that yeah, I'm sure Stephen Jenner will confirm that. But yeah, $5,000 is the prize money.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, we'll see.
How does that change the atmosphere compared to competitions where there's a more even spread of prize money?
I think the atmosphere is still decent. Everyone's, we're especially in Perth, we're a tight-knit community, and everyone's having a good time. I don't think it changes too much with the atmosphere, but obviously when it comes down to the call-ups, everyone's really listening out and doing the maths and trying to work out who's had such and such call-ups. So it can come down to the wire, as it has in the past.
Yeah. And so what else is coming up in
2020?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're available for whatever happens in April and May, and we know that last year we were out, but this year we're good. I got the all clear, so as long as it doesn't coincide with Leo's first birthday, I should be sweet. So we should be doing Smokin City if there is Smokin City, and Chidlow. There'll be Spit in the Hills in May, and the subsequent comps after that. So we're aiming for 4 or 5 comps this year, and it's looking like they'll all be KCBS, which is handy too, because we only did 3 in 2019 and we were able to get 5th overall. So we're pretty happy with that, and first in chicken, and we were blown away with that. So, yeah, it'll be good to see what we can do with more comps under our belt.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, to start your season in September, finish in November, do 3 comps, as you said, finish 5th overall and first in chicken, man, that is a phenomenal effort. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen for you this year.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So you've sort of been to Stephen Jenner's first ever competition, as you said. He does a lot of charity barbecue competitions.
Yep.
He does a lot of great work over there. How have you seen his competitions evolve?
Oh, man, but first and foremost, without him, I wouldn't be where I am with the competition scene, and we owe everything to that guy, because he's just gone out of his way and spends all his time, and, all the work he does is just amazing, and we owe a lot to that guy. And we got, a lot of new companies coming forward, like Barbecue Events Australia, who are doing great events as well. So it's just, from the start, it's just grown phenomenally. And, we went, like I said, from 6 to 12, and then it went into the 20s. And then in 2017, I won GC at Smokin the Water, and that was the biggest comp we had in WA. I forget how many teams, but it was a lot. And it's just amazing to see WA coming together, and we are close outside of the barbecue events. We do catch-ups, meetups, we do classes. We have the Perth Barbecue School with Gus. We just got a number of things, and we're always helping out each other, helping sourcing wood, helping sourcing meats, and we got a lot of guys to thank for that. But yeah, in regards to Stephen Jenner with the charities, it's just been phenomenal what he's been able to do, and it's always great as the tips for treats. So we're happy to provide our offerings to members of the public, and we know it goes to charity, which is great. So yeah, we owe a lot to that guy.
You're listening to the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with massive barbecue nerd Ben Arnott.
Yeah, so Steve, we were just getting into the West Australian barbecue scene there just before the break. We talked about Stephen Jenner and the evolution of the charity barbecue scene over there, and how he's really driven the competition side of things. What could you sort of share with us about the WA scene in terms of trends, uniqueness, local ingredients, flavour profiles? You briefly mentioned woods. I think we might like to get back into that again. Sort of run us down on sort of what sets the WA scene apart.
Well, I think in terms of flavours, we're not unique, but we're just WA is just a big sponge. We learn from what we see online, from what we see over east, from the US, and we're just willing to learn. We're willing to share. We're willing to just give everything a crack. So I don't think there's like unique flavours, although Stefan Jenner will tell you he's got his unique indigenous rub that he uses for brisket that he won't tell anyone. But, but I mean, we're just, we're just a big sponge over here, and everyone's, and we've got people making their own commercially available rubs now. So that's awesome to see. In terms of wood, I mean, we use mostly Jarrah over here. It's a local native wood. It's dense. It burns well, and it's cheap. So Jarrah is like our ironbark. It's awesome. We use it a lot. And if you use a smoker like an offset that gets beautiful airflow, it's not going to be over smoky for any protein. But apart from that, like we've got plenty of orchards and areas in the southwest that are providing a lot of cherry and apple and fig and lots of fruit trees. And every now and then someone will post a heads up that someone needs like 4 tons of wood gone. So we just had it recently where if you had a trailer, bring it down for $50, you can get a trailer load of I think it was cherry wood.
Oh wow.
$50. It was nuts. I'm pretty sure it was 50. And people were going all the way down to Manjimup, which is a good 3-hour drive from Perth, I think, 2.5 for some. People were just loading up. Unfortunately, I've got no room, and the wife will kill me if I have more wood here. And I've got no trailer or anything, so I missed out on that one. But we got plenty of local businesses that are selling decent rubs, sauces, and local fruit wood as well. So we're in good hands. I mean, a long time ago, if we're talking about meat in particular, you could not, like when I first started barbecue, you could not find decent brisket anywhere. And it was funny, whenever I went into a butcher and asked them for brisket, the first question I would always get every time is, do you want that on the bone? Because the only people who were doing brisket were people who were boiling it and making stews and using the bones for stock and things like that. So for a long time, and I'd have to get up a picture of an American full packers cut brisket on my phone and show the butchers like, we can't get that. I've never seen that before. So it's amazing where we've come and what's available now. It's just life's a lot easier now with the meat. We've got a number of great butchers here with the sauces, the rubs. We're in good hands. We look after each other. And we support our local. That's what WA is all about, I think.
Yeah, I definitely got that impression when I was over there. Is Troy the Secret Butcher still in operation? I went and visited his setup there, and it's this sort of almost clandestine. It feels like you're walking into a fight club, and you walk inside, the doors open up, and it's quite large inside, and there's just this plethora of American barbecue style cuts and whatnot. Is he still doing his thing there?
Yeah, he is. And I was there just last week getting my order for Australia Day that I usually get. It's my tradition. Every Australia Day I'm getting my briskets and a couple of nice prime ribs to cook for the pitmaster's dinner the night before. I've been seeing Troy since the very beginning, and he's just blossomed, and he's just a lovely dude, very friendly, happy to help, happy to source what you need. And he looks after a lot of businesses here like Big Don's and Gus and everyone. He's just a great guy, and he's north of the river, and I'm a Northie too, so he's not too far from me, and always having a good chat with him, and he's an awesome dude.
Yeah. Is his business name actually The Secret Butcher, or is that just his nickname?
Well, people know him by either The Secret Butcher or Troy's Meats, and he's got a business page for Troy's Meats. but I think he has a sign called the Secret Butcher as well, because back in the day it was just word of mouth, and it was just a number of us going to him, and then word got out, and it's just it goes to show, it's testament to WA. It just grows organically, and everyone caught on, and then he ended up winning, I think, Butcher of the Year for the ABA. I'm pretty sure,
2018 or 2017.
Yeah, I think it was last 18 maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's recognised. Everyone over here, I just like to that guy for just getting in decent cuts. But yeah, he's just an example of a butcher who's adapted and is learning, and he's going with the trend. And obviously, more and more cuts now are American barbecue style, and he's sourcing the best.
Yeah, it's kind of the moral of our modern society, isn't it? You got to evolve, or you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we're getting a number of butchers now. Depending where you live, you'll have your local that'll just source American cuts, and we've got plenty of Perth style barbecue groups, and everyone will ask, "Oh, where do I go?" And you'll get 10 or 12 comments on which one to go to for this and that. So, yeah, it's awesome to see.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, from what I've read when I was studying Australian geography at university, going way back now, I understand that there's quite a large food bowl area sort of in the southern east, just sort of the southern area of WA there with a pretty big beef scene. So do you guys do a lot of local WA beef, or do you grab all the Sher Wagyus and all that sort of stuff?
It depends what you're doing. If it's for your backyard style, you'll get the younger beef here, the yearlings and the cheaper cuts. But I mean, obviously for comps, I don't think there's any really from WA that are doing competition style 9+ Wagyu, etc. Cuts. So I mean, there's a lot of teams like Mr. Carter from Ribs and Pigs. He swears by the Sher Wagyu, and it goes, proofs in the pudding, because he finished number 1 in Brisket, as you know.
He did, yeah.
So he loves the Sher. So yeah, I mean, more. Actually, we actually use more local pig, from what I see, because obviously a lot of guys like to try the old whole hog and the whole pig on the spit, or the pig in the smoker, and everyone helps as to where to source local decent pigs, and there's a number of guys that can help you in that area. So I see that more than local beef, to be honest, but that's just my experience. I could be completely wrong with the beef scene, but obviously all the butchers are sourcing decent beef, but I'm just talking from a competition sense. On the companies that I've used seem to be all over east.
Yeah, that's interesting. So is there a particular breed of pig over in WA that the people sort of go for? Because I know over here in Queensland there's a huge sort of following for Bangalore, for sun pork, and Meat at Billy's. The brand is escaping me now, but he's got a pecan fed pork that he's got up there. Do you guys have like a special pork over there?
Well, the one I always hear about is Berkshire pigs. I don't even know if they're local or what. I don't know enough about this, but I've had back in the day before I was doing American barbecue, I saw a show and they roasted a pig's head. So I've got a couple of chef friends, and I just asked them if they can get one for me wholesale, and I'll just give them some cash. And so I got this Berkshire pig head delivered, and saw it in half and cooked that up, and it was absolutely delicious. And I was told Berkshire's a delicious pig, but I've heard of sun pork as well. So yeah, I'm not too sure about that, but that would be a good conversation for one of the butchers maybe to discuss the trends and the various cuts and the different breeds.
Yeah, I might have to get Troy from The Secret Butcher on the show and pick his brain a bit on what's happening.
Yeah, that'd be great. He'd love that.
Yeah. Now, I did hear a rumor when I was over there at Smokin in the Valley that someone had actually flown over to Melbourne, bought and picked up some Sher Wagyu, put it on ice in a box, and flown it back to WA with them for that competition. Was that Mr. Carter?
it could be, but I did hear that Ray from Warnbro did something similar where he flew over and picked up some briskets, but I'm not too sure about that. I did hear that. I'm not too sure who it was though. But ironically, at the moment, with all the challenges with the bushfires and everything, and with our main delivery route getting affected, we've actually got a shortage of brisket at the moment, I've been told, which is interesting. So yeah, it's very interesting with a comp next week. Luckily, the butcher I go to, which is Tender West Meats, in Belmont, he's sourced me. He's stored a couple for me for the comp. But it's also salmon. Whenever I was going to a couple of weeks ago, Coles and Woolies over here, salmon was just hard to find because they're all coming across the Nullarbor and getting delivered over here, and there was just a shortage at a lot of the stores. But yeah, it's just a side note.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really sort of thought about how that would impact, about how the bushfires would impact food routes.
Yeah. There you go. Perth is, it's challenging.
Well, as I was saying at the top of the episode, there's so much between the two coasts. It's, technically it is one country, but sometimes it feels like two.
Yeah.
So, what has the introduction of the KCBS meant for the WA scene?
It's great because it puts W on the map, and we get to see how we stack up against the rest of Oz and the world as well. So that, in a sense, is great. And as you said at the top of this podcast, that we were doing ABA at the start, and then Steph and Jenna got on to KCBS. Because back in the day, Stephen Jenner was just doing his own system that he adapted from KCBS and some others. And now that we're sanctioned properly by KCBS, it's been awesome because now we've got something to look forward to with our points, and we can work towards something, and that's just adds more motivation.
Yeah, one thing I love about it all is that KCBS really opens the door to opportunities in America. I mean, if you get a GC at any KCBS competition, you get an entry to the Royal. That's very cool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's awesome too. And it just runs smoothly. Like the guys who are sanctioned above the judges, the guys who run the comps, and we're getting the same 3 or 4 people, and they're awesome. I wish I knew the names to give them a shout out, but they're great. Everything runs smoothly. Just directly after you're getting your points and you're getting your tallies on paper, and yeah, it's been great. It's just a well-oiled machine.
And now you've seen a couple of teams come over from the East Coast. We mentioned King and his Q before, and I think Big Smoke Barbecue, Dan Barrett went over for the Brew and Q barbecue festival over there.
Brew and Q.
Sorry. Yeah, Brew and Q, sorry.
Yeah.
And we've seen Stephen Carter come over with Ribs and Pigs over to the Brisbane Barbecue Festival over here. Do you think that the KCBS is giving sort of more of an opportunity for some interaction between the East and the West Coast?
That's exactly right. Yeah, true. I didn't think of that, but that's definitely another plus as well. And it's good to just meet these guys from over East. And yeah, like I said, see how you stack up against the best over there. And yeah, there's a number of Perth teams that have the capability to fly over and either take their rigs and do the big drive, which is always fun, or fly over and there's teams over East who are happy to support and offer up some smokers. And on the flip side, we've seen a number of teams like Lance. He comes over and he's had a number of help. He gets support from Molly's Moist Meats every now and then with smokers, and goes to show it's a great community across Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I seem to remember, I think maybe 3 years ago, Boyd Colgan, I think was his surname, with Sandgroper Barbecue.
Yeah.
Drove
Boyd
all
Colgan
the way across.
Yes, that's right.
He drove all the way across and then all the way up and down the East Coast and just murdered everybody at every barbecue competition, just up and down the whole East Coast.
Yeah, he's awesome, that guy. He's a lovely dude. He hasn't done too many lately in Perth, but he did Chidlow, and I was fortunate enough to be next to him and have a chat with him. And he still caters, and he's just all over the shop. And he's going really far north. He's just a guy who loves to drive. He loves to travel. And yeah, that year he killed it. He did really well.
Yeah, and he did it all by himself on a smoker trailer rig that he built himself. It was just a fascinating story.
Yeah, awesome guy.
Yeah. Alrighty, so we've sort of wrapped up the WA scene there. What are some of the big barbecue personalities that we need to be following on Instagram right now?
One of the big ones here would be the Perth Barbecue School. They're doing great things. He's got classes on every weekend. Almost every weekend. He also competes and he's in the top 10, so I'll be competing against him next week. And they're posting great photos, and so he's one to look out for. And that's Gus Face Griller as well, his secondary one. You've got Big Don Smoked Meats. He's doing amazing things. He's cooking great brisket, true Texas style in Perth, and he's doing pop-ups all over Perth. And he's alongside Tristan, who does the Smash Burger Barbecue. That's probably in my top 3 best burgers in Perth. You've also got David Ong, who's a big personality in Perth, as most people know. He's always posting. He's just posted a video, I think yesterday or today, about how to deep fry chicken. He's doing a lot of things, not just traditional barbecue side, but he does a lot of other things as well, like the Nashville hot chicken and things like that. So he's another one to watch out for. That's all I can think of at the moment. You got Southern Ocean Smokers, like we mentioned before. So Jason from Molly's, he's building the biggest and best smokers in WA. Some other personalities, obviously the Smokin Barbecue charity on Facebook. If you want to keep an eye out for competitions that are upcoming, follow him. Jules and Glenn, as you spoke to when you were here, from Smoking Hot Jagged. They're awesome. They're lovely people.
They're fantastic.
I call Jules the first lady of barbecue, and she's a sweetheart. She, I just saw today she posted she's doing a ladies barbecue class just for the women. So that's awesome. She's doing that. And Jason Linto, as I mentioned earlier, from Barbecue Events Australia. Follow them on Instagram. They're always posting, and they're getting big names over. Like we had Big Mo Case on. He's got Harry Sue over for classes. A number of big chefs from Vegas, and they're putting on a number of events. And they're also doing a backyard barbecue series for the amateurs who haven't done too many comps. And I've actually put my hand up to judge that, and that's in a couple of weeks. So that's good that they're trying to build the WA barbecue scene as well. So that's going to be good to see how that goes, and gives people a chance if they're a bit novice. And I think it's only 2 proteins as well, and it's just a one-day thing, and it's provided, the proteins are provided from memory. So that's a really cool event. I wish that was around when I first started. But so, yeah, we've got a number of great people in WA doing amazing things, and sharing the love and helping it grow.
Got a project you'd like to work on with the SHC team? Shoot Ben an email on ben@smokinghotconfessions.com and let's have a conversation.
So, Steve, now's the time to get into the dirty bird. Let's talk chicken.
Let's do it.
So give us a bit of a rundown, man. Like what sort of cuts do you prefer to cook, and sort of just give us just some ideas of what the number one KCBS team for chicken in Australia likes to do.
Well, I'm doing thighs, and I've only ever done thighs, so that's all I know. So I can't provide too much on other cuts, but I just love the darker meat. I always have it whenever I go, especially when I go to Nashville. I get the Maryland with the dark meat. I've been to Gus's world famous chicken in Austin. I always get the dark meat there, and it's great. You can select dark over white as well, but that's all I know. That's what I do. In terms of tips and tricks, I mean, with chicken, you got to be careful because it's not your traditional low and slow cut. So what I'm doing is just watching those temps, because if you miss it, it goes over pretty quick. So that's the biggest lesson, is really just watch your temps, make sure you get it right on the money, or else it can get dry pretty quick, depending what you do. But yeah, just like as with all the cuts, just practice. practice with flavor profiles, practice different cuts, practice with different smokers if you have the opportunity, a different wood. That's all it takes.
Yeah, so do you, with those thighs, do you like to cupcake them or pillows, or do you serve them Mary Land like you were talking about before?
No, I do like a pillow. It takes the most effort out of any protein for in regards to prep, because I remove the backside of the skin. I'm removing the fat from that area. I'm just making sure it's even throughout each thigh as well. It gets quite messy, takes the longest, but yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. And you mentioned before that you only run wood in your smokers. Do you use a different like flavor wood when you cook chicken, or do you just run it on the straight jam or jarrah?
Yeah, I'm using jarrah as my base for all my meat, but when I first put on a new protein, I'll go to a fruit wood, either cherry or apple, or whatever I get my hands on, whatever's in season or whatever's available at that time. So yeah, when I first hit the smoke, I'll look for some fruit just to combine with a bit of jarrah, just to get that nice smoke through. But with it, like I said, with an offset, I'm getting clean smoke all the way through. I'm not really having any issues with anything being over smoky at all.
Yeah, well, that was the next question I was going to ask. Like, some people swear by just putting a simple little kiss of smoke over the chicken, whereas others say, slam it with the smoke. So do you sort of fall into the spectrum there, or do you sit at one end, or?
Nah, I mean, I don't really, it doesn't bother me with the amount of smoke, because it's always going to be the same throughout all my meats. It's not like I'm producing more smoke. Maybe I'll throw the fruit wood to the side a bit so it's not directly over the fire, so it'll slowly smoke a bit more and longer. But I've never really been told, or my own taste, I haven't really found it to be over smoky. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there with Webers and Kamados and different types of smokers where they got to be more careful with that approach. But for me personally, I haven't really had that issue.
Yeah, I guess cooking it in an offset does sort of afford you that flexibility of being able to really physically build that fire and, as you said, put that smoking wood off to the side and really sort of control the burn fully.
Yeah, and again, every smoke is different as well, even with offsets. So you learn your hotspot, you learn which areas are providing good heat or too much heat, and you just got to adapt and learn your beast.
Yeah. And how do the judges enjoy chili on chicken over there?
I'm not sure, because I haven't tried too many other teams with chili. I don't use much chili at all, but yeah, it's interesting. I haven't thought about how much people use in terms of chili even on pork or other meats as well. You got to be careful with judges, because you could get that one judge that hates chili, and that could ruin your score. So you got to really find that balance with the sweet and salty and a bit of chili, I guess. Yeah,
good point. Good point. Well, look, man, thank you very much for those tips. They're absolute gold you've been laying down there for us. So I'm going to throw the studio over to you now. So give some shout-outs to whoever you'd like to shout out to, and tell everybody where they can track down Smokin' Steve's BBQ.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate this. So I'm on Facebook, Smokin' Steve's BBQ. So I want to give shout-out to Reese. Obviously, he's my right-hand man. I wouldn't be where I am without him. I want to thank Stephen Jenner, as I already have. He's just amazing. He's done a number of great things for the barbecue community in Perth. And my mum, she'd be pissed if I don't include her in this. So I've got to give her a shout out. She's been with me since day one with the parsley boxes. She is the parsley queen, and a number of other teams have asked and requested that she would provide her boxes for them for $20 a pop, and she's thought about it, but I don't think she will.
Absolutely, she should do that.
Yeah, she'd stack them all up to be hilarious.
Yeah.
Shout out to my wife for letting me put up with my she puts up with my crazy obsession and allows me to spend weekends away, and and thank you for doing this, mate.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Thank you again for being a part of the show.
Appreciate it, mate. It's a pleasure.
And there you have it, family. That wraps up this episode of the Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast. Huge thanks go out to Steve from Smokin' Steve's Barbecue for joining us here in the Confessional. The man obviously knows his barbecue, and if you're not following him on the socials yet, you best get on it, because I'm predicting big things from this team in 2020. And how good does that chicken sound? I'm going to have to try out some of those tips this weekend. I'm particularly interested in what he was talking about with how he physically builds the fire and rolls the flavor wood off to the side. I'm gonna get into that and just sort of see how the different rate of burn is going to affect my chicken. That's going to be really interesting. So make sure you do that too, and share your pics of what you do in the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community on Facebook so we can all see your barbecue glory. So I'm going to leave you with one last thought. If you are looking for the hottest barbecue merch out there, head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com/shop and check it out. There's a link in the description for this episode, and if you buy a shirt, a cap, tumbler, or a hoodie, I will love you forever, because that will give us a couple of bucks towards our trip. Now, our trip, we're going to the NBBQA conference in Louisville in April. That's the National Barbecue and Grilling Association. That is the biggest annual barbecue conference in the US, and it's focused solely on the business of barbecue. And it's really going to be a fantastic time for me personally, because I'm actually presenting on stage there this year. So that is really exciting, and we are really, really looking forward to that. It is going to be so cool. So until next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.